You're listening to the Empowered Divorce Podcast, where you practice being the chooser in your life again, one day at a time. Thanks for joining me. Hello, my amazing, beautiful listeners. Welcome. Thank you for being here and joining me today, wherever you are and whatever you are doing. You have taken the time to push play and to listen to me. And I genuinely appreciate all of you who follow and like. And if you have not clicked the like button, the follow button, or left a 5-star review on this podcast, please take the time to do so. It spreads the word. It lets it reach more and more women who are experiencing a different kind of divorce, a divorce because they have been betrayed, because there has been abuse within that betrayal and potentially additional abuse. I was just talking to a friend that I actually haven't spoken to in quite some time, and she reached out because she's going through a divorce. And one of her first comments was how frustrating and lonely she felt because everybody could not understand why she wasn't still friends and amicable and really engaging with her ex when she just a year ago found out there was an extreme amount of infidelity and addiction in her relationship, which, as we all know, there's abuse that comes along with that. Lying, the deception, the manipulation, the gaslighting. And so, no, she's not going to be BFFs with her ex. She's not going to be hanging out and sitting next to him. And not a lot of people understand that. And she's getting a lot of slack for that. And so it was nice to have her reach out, and I was grateful to be able to validate her experience and the different kind of divorce that she's having. It's the reason why I started this podcast, because I wanted to give voice to this kind of experience that I know I did not have words to describe a lot of what I was experiencing as well over a decade ago. So I'm very grateful for you to be here. And if you like and follow and share and spread, it just helps all of the other women who feel very lost and very alone, maybe feel a little bit more hope when they feel heard. That's actually what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about hope. This is one of those topics that sometimes I hesitate doing an episode on because I feel like there can be so much nuance to this, in the sense of everybody's in different places and spaces in their healing, and where this might land for you might not be the time to listen to this episode. So if it's triggering you in any way, as I would say with any of my episodes, feel free to skip and move along to the next one. I do know that there are different stations, if you will, in our healing journey. And sometimes we're not ready to go to the next station. For example, my 3 pillars of healing: awareness, acceptance, and agency. Not everybody wants to land in that station of acceptance. A lot of times it's because they think it means approval, but it can be really challenging to accept things as they really are when we're still grieving, when we're still in denial, when we still are so upset that this happened. There is a time for that. And sometimes our body isn't quite ready to catch up. I am always about honoring everybody's journey and the timing of their journey. And I think the topic of hope is one of those. We live with a myriad of emotions every day, and especially when you're going through something like this. Our many different interpretations of life and our circumstances are going to give fuel to every one of those emotions. And most of the time, we can get up and get out of bed and live our day with purpose, with direction. And yeah, we may have challenges, of course, right? That comes with being human. But yet we face the day. And for the most part, we're not waking up questioning our existence the moment we open our eyes. Many people take for granted waking each day with ease, or even like my daughter right now, waking up to little voices yelling from their cribs, "Mommy, come get me." She's exhausted, yes, but a moment filled with purpose, absolutely. When you experience betrayal, abuse, and a life-saving divorce, you now know that you once took all of those moments of waking up with purpose and ease for granted, because now you wake up with somber confusion of life, a life that now maybe is filled with doubts, with pain, with grief. You are internally questioning your ability to endure. And all of that questioning is going to undermine your drive, your will to keep going. And for how much longer? Because I remember thinking, I cannot do another day, or I cannot take one more thing, because it just felt like it kept coming and coming and coming and coming at me. I was sure the next one would be the thing that broke me. And it just kept coming. When you're just going through the motions, but your spirit is your higher self, your soul, who you are, is somewhere very far away. When you can't remember why you walked into the living room, when mid-sentence your mind goes blank and your thoughts just crash, when the idea of even going on a walk feels too exhausting because getting dressed or showering is too much. Sometimes your mind even wonders if taking another breath is worth it. When so much has been lost, when so much has been changed, it is understandable why hope also feels gone. For a time, I really resented those who could go through their day without wondering how they would feed their children that week. Survival mode wasn't a time to count blessings. It was a time of counting dollars that I stuffed under my mattress, counting the number of people who stopped reaching out or chose to take his side, counting the angry texts and emails that betrayed me as a woman and a mother, counting the hours on the clock that I would just lay there begging my brain to stop thinking so that I could sleep. But counting blessings, no, that was not on my radar for a very long time. Hope, finding reasons to get up, to shower, to keep going, to breathe, it doesn't always begin with optimism. So when your soul feels sunk so deep in the mud of despair, of grief, when it seems like everyone else is happy, everyone else is whole, everyone else has a whole family, but you, hope can feel nowhere to be found. And yet sometimes just finding one person who gets it, who knows what pain like yours, can breathe life back in, which is, again, why I feel so passionate of putting this podcast out every week. You know that old phrase, misery loves company? I don't necessarily agree with it. I think misery loves understanding. I think we want to be understood in our misery, in our grief, in our pain, in our experience, which is why I think having this life-saving divorce and defining it different than other types of divorces, rather than just lumping it all into one, because we want to be understood, because there's so much misunderstanding already in the relationship, right? But misunderstandings that are being told about you from the other person most of the time. I know a lot of you have reached out to me and shared that that's part of your story. When you meet someone who can hold space for your pain and who can understand, who gets it, you realize maybe you're not alone. There's this artist that I discovered years ago. He is a 20th century abstract painter. He's from Russia. And his work really spoke so much to my heart. His name is Mark Rothko. His art, little bit of a story about him. His art wasn't meant to decorate walls. It was really meant to be a space. Like when you are standing in front of this one particular piece I'm going to talk about, you're standing in this emotional space, having an emotional experience. And it really is a place, standing in front of his art, where grief could exist very honestly. He once said, "The people who weep before my painting are having the same religious experience I had when I painted them." I absolutely I love that quote. And I love that kind of an artist to really be able to give people an experience when they see it. He believed the purpose of art was to reveal what it means to be human. And being human means to hold suffering, loss, a loss of hope, and a human that needs to feel and experience all of these emotions without trying to fix them or have anybody else fix them. And so his work reminds me that when our pain is witnessed, when someone can sit with it without rushing to fix it, something really sacred happens. It creates a small flicker of hope, the hope that we're not alone. And that's why I record every week, so that those who have lived through the unspeakable experiences of betrayal, abuse, and loss can feel seen, can know that they are not alone. Because in that small but mighty knowing, that is where your hope begins to grow again. Growing up, I believed that life was supposed to be joyful. And if it wasn't, then maybe I was doing something wrong. Then I would figure out what I was doing wrong. So I learned to hyper focus on my weaknesses, to analyze what I was doing to create all this unnecessary pain for myself. And while self awareness and accountability are very important, I misunderstood something in that. I thought that negative emotion meant that I was failing as a human, that if I felt loss, pain, grief, then it meant that I was failing as a human, that I was doing something wrong. That cannot be further from the truth. When we experience pain, agony, grief, they are baked into being human. They're not a punishment. It's a rite of passage. Our suffering isn't a reflection of our worth, our value, our lovability. It's evidence of our capacity to feel deeply. I say this all the time, but your human body was designed to process, to handle, so to speak, all of these emotions. What it wasn't designed to handle is for us to avoid, resist, or react to these emotions. For those of you with a Christian background, I've had a lot of reframing for myself. Some of these concepts that I think were taught more out of culture rather than doctrine, just personally speaking. But there is a line in the Bible where Jesus is in Gethsemane and he resists drinking the bitter cup. He feels that human resistance to suffering, to sorrow, and yet he drinks. And it's one of the more profound experiences that I feel like I can learn from and even feel related to in this experience, because how many of us very naturally, and that's part of our human experience, is to immediately resist these painful negative emotions, right? And so for him to say, is there another way? Right? Another way, let this cup pass. We figured out another way for me to fulfill this plan instead of having to feel the suffering. That human resistance to suffering, to sorrow, is normal. It doesn't mean that we are doing something wrong. The example that he sets is that he drinks anyways, right? Thy will be done. I believe that act wasn't to show perfection. It was to show acceptance. Each of us at some point must drink from our own bitter cup. And when we do, we're not doing it wrong. We're being human and we're leaning into accepting the reality of our human experience, which involves pain, grief, and agony. We're just being human. No amount of planning, of perfection saves us from the drink of pain. What I have come to know for myself is that when we finally take that drink, when we allow ourselves to grieve, when we allow our body to feel the sensations, the tightening in the chest, the lump in the throat, when we cry, when we mourn, without forcing a smile and saying, I'm fine, or without carrying shame for any of that. Our right as humans is not to be happy, it's to be honest about what we're experiencing. Okay, how does that bring hope? Because when we allow ourselves to look into that darkness, into the sadness, into the grief without resistance, we make space for the light that follows. And it always, always follows. It always overcomes the dark. When we accept that life isn't fair, that divorce is not fair, that what happened to you was not your choice and is not fair, we stop being shocked when it isn't. And when we see that pain as part of the human process, the human experience, not proof of our unworthiness or proof of our unlovability. That's when we begin to see ourselves again. I was working with a client who was really stuck right here in this space. Every time her ex did something, every time her children did something, every time her parents did something, a part of her, couple parts of her were making it mean something about her lack of worthiness, her lack of lovability. And that message just kept being reinforced every time someone would say something or do something, pull away. See, something must be wrong with me. And it prevented her from seeing herself. She didn't know who she was. She didn't know where to begin to find that out. When we accept that other people are going to have other thoughts, that other people's thoughts are their business. Byron Katie, 3 types of business: God's business, other people's business, and our business. When we stop getting involved in other people's business and stick to our own in acceptance, we can stop making what other people think about us or what they did. We stop making that proof that it means something negative or unworthy or unlovable about ourselves. Being unhappy doesn't make you broken. Feeling lost doesn't make you unlovable. And every bitter drink you have taken is part of your becoming. I also see where sometimes hope can keep us stuck. So I might have a client that says, I still have hope, right? I still have hope in the relationship. I still have hope that my partner will do the work in recovery. And I'll ask, okay, well, hope in what? Because sometimes hope can quietly, subtly tether us to what's hurting us. Hope that he'll change, hope that he'll see, hope that he'll be accountable, hope that he'll apologize, hope that he'll repair, hope that he'll pay child support, hope that he'll do the right thing, hope that he will stop spreading lies, hope that love will be enough maybe this time. That kind of hope is what I call survival hope. It's the hope that keeps you waiting, scanning, exploring, forgiving, and even repeatedly forgiving injury, believing if you just love harder and heal faster and fix better, that that person will meet you there. Real hope doesn't live in someone else's potential. I'm going to say that again. Real hope does not live in someone else's potential. Real hope lives in your agency, in your ability to choose. Brene Brown teaches this. She says, hope isn't an emotion. It's a way of thinking. It's having a goal, believing in your ability to reach it, and finding that path to move you forward towards it. That's not passive hope. That's embodied hope. That's not survival hope. That is attainable hope. So maybe your goal isn't to fix the marriage or it's to make peace again. Maybe your goal isn't to change him and get him to finally see the light. It's to change what you allow in that space. Maybe you don't allow the text message. Maybe you don't allow the face-to-face because it always ends up in an argument or him manipulating and gaslighting. Maybe your hope isn't for reconciliation or repair. It's for restoration in your own sense of self. Sometimes I think we let hope lead to pretending. It's not pretending. It is, again, that agency, active participating. It's not waiting for the light. It's remembering you are the light. So if you are listening right now and you feel like hope is gone, maybe it's just transforming. The hope you once had maybe for someone else to change, to repair, to do the right thing. Maybe that's shifting and can shift into hope for yourself. That's not giving up. In all honesty, I think that's growth because real hope says, I might not know what's next, but I absolutely can take the next right step just right now. It says, I might not feel strong today, but I am breathing. And that is enough. Because this is where your power lies. Awareness, acceptance, and agency. Awareness of where your hope is anchored. Acceptance of what is real right now and agency in what you can choose next. And when you hold onto hope that way, it's not a fantasy. It's not just survival. It's not denial. It's not avoidance. It's not pretending. It's hope as your friend because it starts to lead you back to you, to what you can have choice in. So maybe just for today, your hope is simply that you'll get up, that you will breathe, and that you will choose to believe there's something ahead of you that is worth discovering, that is worth seeing, that is worth living for. Because even when you can't see the light, you're still moving towards it. Before I wrap up the episode today, I want to talk for a moment about what happens when hope starts to feel lost in one particular area, dating again. So for many of the women that I work with, they'll tell me, I lost hope in finding someone healthy, or I just don't trust myself anymore, lost hope there, or I don't ever think I know what healthy looks like. I've lost hope in men. I totally get it. When you've gone through this kind of betrayal, when you've had a life-saving divorce, when you've walked through the trauma and the chaos, hope in love, healthy love, can feel like a cruel joke and unattainable. But just like what I talked about today, hope isn't about wishful thinking. It's not about hoping someone else will show up and make it right this time. It's about how you hold hope. When you anchor it in your own healing, in your awareness, acceptance, and agency, that's where hope becomes powerful again. You start to believe in the possibility of connection, not because someone else changes, because you have. That's exactly why I created Dating from Within workshop. It's a 3-day workshop. I am so excited to announce that registration is now open. A lot of you have shown interest, been on my interest list. I know. Some of you have checked in with me. Amie, when is this happening? It's happening. We're going to meet January 8th, 9th, and 10th. This workshop is learning how to date from within, dating you, connecting to you, showing up with all parts of you from wholeness, not from wounds, with hope in your ability to trust you again, not to trust somebody else. If hope has felt lost in dating, in men, or even in trusting yourself again, this is where we begin to rebuild it. And together, we're going to explore what safe connection feels like, how to recognize healthy patterns, unhealthy patterns like those red flags, but most importantly, how to trust you again. You're going to walk away with hope. In fact, that's what almost everyone says when they take this workshop. I have hope again. So if your heart is ready to have hope again, then come join me. You can register today through the link in the show notes or go to amiewoolsey.com and click on Dating from Within. Remember, hope isn't about waiting for love to find you. It's about becoming love. It comes from the inside out. And when you put that one foot in front of the other, even in dating again, believing that you can, I believe that you can, because you really are the chooser in your life. And you can create the life that you want with hope, because you can. Take care, everybody.